Hi, I'm Elizabeth McCulloch and welcome to the fourth video in my gardening series. I'm a first-time gardener based in the Midwest and I'm taking you along my journey through this growing season. In the last video, you saw me design my vegetable garden and my flower garden, and in today's video, I'll be direct sowing some of my early spring crops, my carrots and my greens, and I'll also be transplanting the perennials that we already have growing in the backyard. Join me out there and we'll get started with sowing those vegetable seeds. Okay, I'm super excited to sow these seeds, but before I do that, I'm going to spread this compost and sprinkle some vermiculite over that patch, mix it all in, and then I'll be direct sowing my carrots, lettuce, arugula, and spinach. After I do that, I'll transplant my perennials and plant my bulbs. Although we've spread compost over the soil here, it is still primarily clay. I'm adding vermiculite because it will provide some aeration, but slow release moisture so I don't have to worry about the intense sunlight drying my soil too much for the seeds. Now I'm measuring out the rows for my carrots and greens. Each row will be 1 foot apart, and because there won't be much spacing between the seeds, I'm just going to create a shallow trench at each foot. For my greens, every 4 inches I'm going to sprinkle 3 or 4 seeds. First I'm doing spinach, then my arugula and lettuce. The last row is carrots. These only require 1 inch spacing, so I'm actually just sprinkling my seeds through the whole trench rather than measuring out each inch. Okay, I've got my greens and my carrots in. I'm going to be moving on to planting my perennials, transplanting my perennials. But first I have to make the rows for them, so I'll show you before I start that what the area is that I'm working with. This grassy area behind me is going to become the rows for my cut garden. The cut garden will be comprised of perennials, most of which are already growing in the ground. The first thing I have to do is get those out of the ground. Then I'll have to measure out my rows, put the rows in the ground, and then I'll be able to plant my perennials. This here is a black-eyed Susan, so I'm just going to dig all around this whole patch. So you can see how I dug all around this plant. This whole thing is black-eyed Susan. It's huge. It's probably 2 feet by like 1.5 feet or something like that. So it's a massive black-eyed Susan. I have like 3 more of them. So I'm not worried about disturbing this one too much because I'm not going to need the whole plant. To get the plant out of the ground, I got my shovel underneath it at a horizontal angle and pushed on the handle of the shovel as if it were a lever. This uprooted the plant, and I repeated that process around the perimeter of it. I completed the same steps to remove the remaining perennials out back. So this is where I had my 3 small black-eyed Susan plants. I also had a small patch of irises here. And then over here, I've got my bergamot. We have another variety of black-eyed Susan, and this is my purple coneflower. All right, so I'm gonna start mapping out my rows. And I'm gonna measure them closer to the fence of the garden here because I want there to be about a 4-foot gap here to get into the vegetable garden, or to walk through the flowers to get into the vegetable garden. So I'll have about 1 foot wide rows, and then just going from this line of the fence, I'll do 1 foot row, and then a 1 foot gap. We'll do another 1 foot row, and then like I said, we'll do 4 feet gap here, and then another 1 foot row, 1 foot gap, 1 foot row. So I've already dug out 2 of my rows here, just to see how I wanted to approach it. I'll show you here in a second how I did it. But this is what they're ultimately going to look like. So I'm going to go ahead and backfill these, but I did I plotted out where I'm going to have my plants. This is where I will do the other 2 rows. I've got to move some of the soil and then dig those out. Okay, so I've got another row dug out, and I made sure that it was 4 feet from the edge of the other one over there. And I did that by taking a tape measure along the side. And I'm going to dig 1 more row here. That's 1 foot from the outside edge of this row that I just dug. The last thing I need to do today is get my gladiolus bulbs in the ground, and I need to get my irises transplanted as well. Those are going to be going in this row here. I got my gladiolus bulbs. I'm going to be planting these every 6 inches here in this trench. So I have everything backfilled, and I even moved my sod here where there was no grass previously because our raised beds were here. I have a lot in the ground that needs to be watered, so I'm going to go ahead and grab my hose and water everything down. It's quite hot right now, so I'm probably going to have to water for a few minutes because I want to make sure that our soil is getting saturated and it's not just evaporating as soon as it hits the ground. Hopefully I'm able to keep control of these chickens as well. We'll see. I'm going to go ahead and grab the hose and water all of these rows that I have planted. I'm also going to water the seeds that I have in the garden. So with all of my transplants, I have an excess of plants. So I have a lot of black-eyed Susans left over because I split that up a bunch. My bergamot I was able to split into 4, so I'm going to maximize that growth. And then with my irises, I have a lot left over there because the irises are just booming every year for us. But I've got 4 plants here, they're alternating. And then I even have more irises along the fence there, so we'll still have plenty of irises growing back here. That far row, like I said, is going to be our mammoth sunflowers, so I'm not sowing those seeds just yet, and that will be about 2 weeks from now. Thank you so much for watching. You saw me direct sow my early spring crops, my carrots and my lettuce. You saw me dig rows for my flowers and transplant my perennials and plant some bulbs. In the next video, I'll be giving you a seedlings update because I have a lot of growth going on, and I changed my growing setup, so I'd like to show you that. Please hit that thumbs up button if you like this video, and subscribe if you'd like to see what I'm doing next in my garden. Bye!